Welcome back to Jot's Shop.
This video will show us starting work on the 1960 F100 original engine, that powerful 223 inline 6. In previous episodes we removed the front end. This allows us much better access to the engine, especially if we decide that we need to pull it. In this episode, we'll see what's up with the starter, we'll test the engine compression, and then based on what we find out, we'll determine what our next steps should be. We previously removed the solenoid from the inner fender. Even though we're probably going to replace it, we thought we'd go ahead and test it. First, we'll check the continuity across the relay. We set our multimeter to test continuity. You can see that when the red and black probes touch, the circuit continuity is shown. Now when we touch the battery in starter out leads on the solenoid, you can see that there is no continuity over the relay. That's the way it should work. Now we'll put 12 volts in the S terminal with the ground on the solenoid body. You can hear the click when the relay closes. Now the multimeter shows continuity across the battery in starter out leads. Although this solenoid is probably usable, we're going to go ahead and get a new one. Now we'll test the starter to see if it engages with the flywheel. We do a direct connect from the battery to the starter. As you can hear, the starter runs, but it does not engage the flywheel. Obviously, we have a problem. We'll remove the starter to see what's up. There are 3 bolts that hold the starter on. We had pre-treated all of our bolts with PB Blaster, and so they came off nice and easy. The starter is heavy, so make sure that you brace it somehow before taking that last bolt off. Once the last bolt is out, this starter should slide right out. However, ours was binding. Looking inside, we saw that it was being stopped by some sort of obstruction. We suspected wasp nest. Not the first time we've seen their work on this truck. Sure enough, the obstructions were a wasp nest. They were hard as rocks. They were stopping the starter from engaging the flywheel. There were also mouse nests inside. So we thoroughly cleaned it and vacuumed it out. We mounted the starter on a stand we had made. It's a follow-through type starter. The gear moves back towards the starter to engage the flywheel. Once the flywheel is engaged, it locks into place. It will not release until the engine speed reaches 310 to 390 RPM. Here we move the gearing back. You can hear the lock pin falling into place. We clean the starter with kerosene as directed in the service manual. The service manual also says to not lubricate it once you finish cleaning. We installed the starter back onto the engine. We hooked the starter to a new solenoid with a push-button starting button that we attached. Before we do the compression check, we'll check and change the oil. The oil dipstick still indicated we had oil. In fact, it only indicated half a quart low. To us, the oil didn't look too bad. The engine still has the old style cartridge oil filter on it. We decided not to change the filter before we do our compression check. We will change it before we try to actually start the engine. The oil pan drain plug came off easily. First drops coming from the oil pan appear to be a bit of water. There wasn't much of it, and we suspect it was just because the engine hadn't been run for a few decades. After the oil was drained, just for grins, we ran a magnet through it, just to see if it would pick up any metal. We didn't really feel anything, so that's possibly a good sign about the engine. We filled with new oil. This helps to lubricate the engine during the compression check, since it comes from the top down. We also removed the fan belt. We pre-treated the 3 bolts on the generator, and they loosened easily. Rolling the generator toward the engine lets the fan belt come off easily. You can see our fan belt is a bit old and has a few missing pieces. Now for the compression test. As usual, we remove all the spark plugs from the engine before the compression test. As we take out our plugs, we made sure that we had numbered them. The numbering helps if you need to evaluate what's happening inside your cylinders. We used an Innovo compression tester that we had picked up on Amazon. It got quite a few good reviews. We hand tighten the hose into each spark plug hole. We cranked the engine until the reading steadied out. As you can see, we got compression on all our cylinders. Number 4 is pretty low, even though we had put Marvel Mystery Oil down it and let it sit for a while. Many of our Facebook colleagues on the Fridge Connection group said they didn't believe this was a showstopper, since we still had some compression in each cylinder. They indicated that we should go ahead and try to start it. They found many times that if the engine hasn't been run for decades but still has compression will probably increase as the engine runs. So our next steps are to try to get it started. We'll order and install new parts such as spark plug wires, spark plugs, etc. We'll check the fuel pump to make sure it's working. We'll bypass the fuel tank and system and put new gas directly into the fuel pump. We'll also clean the carburetor up a bit. By attempting to start, it'll give us more information. We can make a determination if it's okay for a while, does it need to be rebuilt, or does it need to just be replaced.
That's all, folks, and thanks for watching. There's more videos to come on the truck. Leave a comment if you want, and remember, it's free to subscribe. Bye-bye.